The following program is made possible by generous gifts from partners of Hinn Ministries and viewers like you in this area.
For where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. We know God hears our prayers and answers them. Pastor Benny's evangelism and healing ministry takes him around the world, but he has made it a priority to spend time in prayer for you. Send Pastor Benny your prayer requests and let him come into agreement with you. In addition, the ministry staff will pray for you before your request is sent to Israel, where for 30 days the saints in Jerusalem will agree with you. So write today and come into agreement with him for your needs to be met.
Pastor Benny Hinn is urgently preaching the gospel to the lost because the world's only hope is salvation through God's only Son, Jesus Christ.
The gift of God is life eternal.
This is your day to join Benny Hinn in proclaiming Jesus as Savior and Healer.
You know how special you are to the Lord. You are so special that the Bible says He has numbered the hairs on your head. Look, He loves you so much, He thinks about you all the time. His thoughts are always about you. David said, Lord, if I should count your thoughts, they're more in number than the sand on the seashore and the stars in heaven. I just wanted to remind you today, Jesus loves you. On the program with me today, again, is Dr. Ted Brewer and his wife, Sharon. Wow, I'm telling you, I'm impressed. More than that, you are dynamic. You really are. Yesterday, what you talked about, so important, so needed. You talked about the 10 foods not to eat, and I hope today you're going to continue.
Finish them.
And talk about a whole lot more. But first, I want to know from Sharon. Now, I hope I don't embarrass you. You're 51 years old.
Yes, and I'm
How
not
you
embarrassed.
stay so young looking?
Okay, I'm going to tell everybody we've got this product that's really great. It's been around for hundreds of years.
But we've only found one brand that works, and we really can't promote the brand on TV, but we'll tell you what it is.
And I can tell them what it is,
But
right?
you can't tell them the brand, but you can tell them what it is,
Okay,
yes.
it's the old-fashioned cod liver oil.
Really?
Now, I'm not
Wow.
talking about fish oil capsules. I'm not talking about, taking 3 or 4 capsules. I'm talking about the liquid where you take tablespoons. I take 6 tablespoons a day. Your fine wrinkles will disappear. Your skin turns like peaches and cream. Any joint any inflammation problems are totally gone. If you said I could have one product on this world
That's
as
true.
far as a nutritional product, I would say I'll take the cod liver oil. I have had health, just
Vitality, everything.
No, just
Now,
everything.
but
It's
how
incredible.
about the taste?
Oh, it tastes terrible. No, I'm not.
So
no,
how'd you,
Well,
you mix it with something or what?
We actually in our office have mint flavor
Yeah,
and
cinnamon and orange
cinnamon, and they're
flavor.
actually extract tinctures.
Natural tinctures,
and
so
they're
they're not
really
chemicals.
good.
You can send me some?
I'll be happy to, yeah.
Okay, I want to stay
But I'm not going to, you know me. They're so funny. My grandfather came over to this country back in like 1870.
From Germany?
From
Yeah.
1870. My father went back to Germany after the war, met my mom after World War II. So in 1952, my mother came back over. And so my first language was German. You probably don't know that. I still speak German. And I was reading in the Financial Times just the other day, and they were talking about different nationalities and basically what people think of different nationalities. And they said, we'll never ask a German what he thinks because he'll tell you. And so when you ask me, how does it taste? I'll tell you, it tastes terrible. Then that's the thing you can always learn from me. I remember a couple of years ago, I had finished a big seminar down in Miami. We had 17,000 people. Then I was privileged that evening to share the platform with President Bush Sr., Barbara Bush, Colin Powell, General Schwarzkopf, and a whole bunch of other things. I think Larry King and a bunch of other guys were there. And that night, they asked me to a private dinner. There were 5 of us with President Bush Sr. And there were 5 of us at the table. And President Bush started asking me health questions. And I told him the same thing that I told the listeners yesterday. He asked me about soft-shell crabs. And I said, President Bush, I said, here's how they work. We have 10 to 15 people a year in the state of Florida die from shellfish poisoning. Soft-shell crabs are bad for you because they can contain abnormally high levels of arsenic, lead, and mercury. Don't eat them. So you have my commitment to you today. Listen to me, friends. Even if the President of the United States were to sit here with me right now and ask me questions about health, I'm going to tell them the same thing I'm going to tell you.
Now, yesterday you began talking about the foods we should not eat.
That's correct.
Go back and repeat the 4 you talked about, because maybe somebody missed the program, and then go on from there.
Okay, we're going to go real fast through the first 4, so please, if you have a sheet of paper and pencil, take some notes, because I don't want you to miss this. Plus, today I want to talk about the 5 ways to burn and melt body fat. And we have an offer today, and you know what I'm going to do with the offer today is, for the people that call in, I'm going to a report that I wrote on cellulite, how to burn and melt cellulite. And I know ladies, now see, all the ladies who are watching right now, Pastor, they were saying, yeah, but as soon as I said cellulite, everybody got excited. Because we developed that, because Sharon was developing some cellulite a few years back. And I said, that's not going to work for me or for her. And so we found out how to completely get rid of it.
Now you know my age, and now you know I had cellulite. Okay, is there anything else you want to tell?
Sorry, Sharon. There's nothing else.
Now, Dr. Ted, look at the camera and start talking to our precious people.
Number 1 food to stay away from, top 10 foods never to eat. In fact, I call these first 4 foods the Kevorkian 4. The number 1 food to stay away from are the high-fat luncheon meats. I include bacon, sausage, ham, pepperoni, and hot dogs in that category.
Explain why, though.
Very good question. If you eat sodium nitrite, which is a preserving agent in pork and luncheon meats, any kind of luncheon meat, it reacts with stomach acid to form nitrosamines. Nitrosamines are one of the most effective agents known to man for producing malignant intestinal tumors in laboratory animals. And remember, colon and rectal cancer is the leading type of cancer in adults. That's very important that you understand that. In addition to that, pork has parasites in it. There's a possibility, a high probability, it has trichina larvae. A few years ago, I was speaking with an USDA meat inspector at the gym. He's a friend of mine in Auburndale, Florida, where I live. And basically, I asked him, I said, let me ask you some questions about pork. I said, have you ever been there when they slaughter a pig? He goes, absolutely. I said, tell me what you find. He goes, every pig we've ever slaughtered is full of worms. And these are domestically raised hogs. Every one of them is full of worms. Now, see, God knew that, and basically, he told us not to eat it in the Old Testament. Now, you say, well, I'll cook the pork real well. That way, when I eat the worms that are in the pork, they'll be dead, so I'll have to be able to eat dead cooked worms. Now, how sick is that? But see, nobody thinks about what they're saying. This morning, I call up the restaurant to order something from the hotel, and I asked them if they had farm-raised salmon or regular salmon, if it was wild salmon.
Sure.
And they said, well, our salmon's farm-raised. And I said, well, I don't want that because farm-raised salmon has too many parasites in it. And they said, well, we know that, but that's cheaper, and that's what we do. And I said, well, that's nice. And I said, but the reality is I'm not going to eat it, and I'm not going to do it. And so what I find is fascinating is this. People will sit there, and so I talked to the lady, and I said, I'm not going to eat pork, because she's talking about bacon, in this omelet that I was trying to order. And I tried to convince her about not using liquid or powder eggs, which you should never do. You should always crack the eggshell. And when you ever go to a restaurant, never let them cook you an omelet unless you watch them crack the eggs, because they use that liquid batter that's basically reconstituted egg mix, and it's unbelievably bad for you. It's very toxic, and you should never put it in your body. Just telling you, as far as elevating cholesterol, always use real eggs. So I'm having this discussion with her, and she goes, well, I really like bacon. So I said, so you like to eat dead cooked worms? She goes, what do you mean by that? And I said, well, let's think about it. You have to cook the bacon to make sure the worms are dead. Everybody knows that with pork, but that doesn't mean the worms are gone, they're just dead. So that's why I tell people don't eat pork. Let me tell you something else. Now we know that God, the basic, I'm going to read you something in 1 John. 1 John chapter 2 basically says, whoever claims to live in him, in Christ, in God, must walk as Jesus did.
That's right.
Jesus didn't eat pork. Now, you can argue with a higher authority about this, okay? This is just the way it works. I mean, because God made the pigs to be basically a large rodent to run around eating the dead, decaying corpses of other animals. He didn't put them here for us to eat. Now, if you want to eat stuff like that, that's entirely up to you, but I'm not going to do it. Now,
He even sent the demons into the pigs.
now, let me share something else with you. And people say, well, I don't believe that we're in the Old Testament law. I don't either. We can eat pork and go to heaven. It has nothing to do with salvation. See, there were 4 Old Testament precepts: God's relationship to man, man's relationship to man, the dietary laws, and the sanitary laws. When Jesus came and died for us, he forever changed God's relationship to man and man's relationship to man. He never changed the dietary laws, and he never changed the sanitary laws, ever.
I believe that.
Never did it. He can't, because he's God. See, the universe has to have a certain balance to keep going, and that's part of the balance. He can't change that because he's God. He put it that way to start with. So let me read you this. So we know it doesn't make God happy to disagree with what he says as far as his word. Eating pork, I don't think, make God happy. So we said, dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God, and we receive anything from God that we ask, because why? We obey his commands, and we do what pleases him. It pleases God to obey his word. It pleases God. And that's what's so important. For this, in 1 John chapter 5, it says again, in verse 3, this is love for God, to obey his commands. And it says, and his commands are not burdensome.
Now, go back and talk about the foods, and then let's go on with other foods we shouldn't eat.
Absolutely.
So besides the
high-fat
luncheon meat,
bacon, sausage, ham, pepperoni, hot dogs. Now this morning for breakfast. Now you guys will love this. Now listen to me, friends. This morning for breakfast at the hotel, since I couldn't get an omelet without junk in it, okay, I ordered 2 eggs over easy and a steak. Now you're saying, you ate beef. Of course I ate beef. You have to have cholesterol in your diet every single day for your brain to work, to produce testosterone, to stay a man. You want to keep your cholesterol around 200 to 250. If it's not over 250, don't worry about it. I'm just telling you right up front. It doesn't matter. You have to have cholesterol to produce hormones, including testosterone. And so if you want to stay man, you've got to have this. The people are eating soy all the time. Soy this, soy that, especially out here in California. Everything's soy, everything. Soy is so loaded with estrogen that it's like taking a birth control pill when you drink soy milk. It has so much estrogen in it, and it'll feminize a man quick. It'll make him act like a woman, make him look like a woman. It's terrible.
Never heard that.
But it's true. It's true. Soy is one of the worst things you can put in your body. It's unbelievably stressful. Never eat soy of any kind. That's just a little bit of extra, not included in the top 10 list. Number 2 to stay away from is NutraSweet, aspartame, or equal diet sodas. Avoid it. Avoid sodas altogether. It takes 33 glasses of water to neutralize the acidity from 1 glass of cola. And if you don't drink 33 glasses of water with that 1 soda, your body's going to dissolve your own bones to make that thing disappear. It has to. And that's why so many people suffer osteoporotic fractures even in their 20s and 30s and 40s in this country because of all the sodas we're drinking acid.
Keep going, Doc.
Number 3 are margarine products, hydrogenated oils, trans fats. Biochemical synthetic. They took corn oil, and see, back in World War II, we had a scarcity of butter. And they had to find some alternative for butter. They found they could take corn oil and bubble nitrogen through it, or hydrogen through it, at about 1,000 degrees, 700 to 1,000 degrees, and use nickel as a catalyst and take that liquid corn oil and turn it into a solid. And what it did, it would be a solid white mass like Crisco. That's what it was. And then they would put a little tube with it with yellow food coloring. You'd squeeze the tube into the Crisco, you'd mix it up, and you'd have margarine. That's how it was first made. And they had no idea this was a trans fat, trans fatty acid. It's one of those poisonous substances known to man. It increases the risk of breast cancer by just leaps and bounds. In fact, Joanne Budwig, 7-time Nobel Prize nominee over in Europe, basically said the primary cause of breast cancer globally is the use of trans fats and hydrogenated oils, and I believe that. It's one of the worst things. Use butter, use olive oil, but always make sure you use raw, organic butter. It's the best. It's the best. And then make sure that it doesn't have any hormones or antibiotics or pesticides added to the butter. You can get that at a health food store.
And number 4?
Number 4, shellfish. That includes lobster, shrimp, oyster, prawns, scallops, crabs, and clams. Again, remember, a lobster could have abnormally high levels of arsenic, lead, and mercury. See, in Florida, we have...
Now, yesterday, you had a lobster in your...
Well, I still have him.
I want to see that again.
Here he is. But here's what we've got. This I find this fascinating, okay?
Plastic, of course.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But here's the thing. This is considered a delicacy. An arthropod, a cockroach is an arthropod, lobster is an arthropod. And I know some of you biologists and chemists will say, well, it's not really a cockroach. Well, it's similar, guys. You got to admit that because it's still an exoskeleton, thing here. And so the thing that people don't realize is this. If every time you turn on your lights in the house at night, these things ran under the refrigerator, you wouldn't consider them to be a delicacy.
No, of course.
These are nasty animals. A few years ago, I was diving down to the Keys. I'm a scuba diver. And the guy was breaking this, different parts of the lobster off, and he had a bunch of cats there. And he was throwing the heads of these things away. And he was feeding part of it to the cat, but not the heads. And I said, why don't you feed this to the heads, the heads to the cats? He goes, we can't. He said, it'll kill every cat on the dock. He said, they're so poisonous, if they eat these, they'll die. Now, the guy won't feed them to his cats. Okay, but we're eating this stuff. I mean, what's that all about? And see, again, God warned us not to eat shellfish. Don't do it. And he knows they're on the bottom of the ocean eating the dead, decaying corpses of other animals. An oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of seawater a day. And see, all those contaminants in the seawater go inside the oyster, and there's no way for them to get rid of the contaminants. They're filter feeders. That's what they do, and they keep the water pure.
You told us yesterday that how God healed you.
Yes.
When you were sick,
Yes.
you were in your 20s.
Yes,
And
27
you got
years old.
on a nutritional program.
Yes.
And the Lord just healed you.
Yes, he healed me and he rescued me from the grave. And friends, listen to me for a second. And this is so important. I want you to, this is critical. I know a lot of this information is probably overwhelming to you. But I want you to know something. I thought it was overwhelming when I first heard it too. And I thought, wow, this is just kind of just amazing that, this guy's telling me this stuff and I've never heard this before. But all these lights started popping on because in Hosea it says, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And it's so true. Until you find out the truth of what you can do and what you can't do concerning your body, you walk in sickness and disease. When I'd rather have you walk in health and tremendous energy every day of your life. But there's certain choices that you have to make. Now remember, you can make good choices, you can make bad choices. Here's something you can't do though. You can't determine the consequences. They're made for you. So if you make good choices, you have good consequences. If you make bad choices, you have bad consequences. It doesn't matter whether you want bad consequences or not. It's just what happens. If you say, I don't believe in the law of gravity, I don't believe in the law of consequences, I'm going to step off a 10-story building, you're going to have a really negative experience for a few seconds until you hit the bottom of the ground or wherever you are. The reality is we can't break ourselves against God's word. I mean, in God's law. We have to be obedient as much as we possibly can if we want to walk in divine health. And that's what we try to teach people all the time. Is
Keep going with the foods you should
Number
not eat.
five, this is critical. As I promised you yesterday, I talk about this, are the junk foods. You know, Twinkies, Ding Dongs, cupcakes, all this kind of garbage that we consume so much of in the United States. You know, just a few years ago, we only ate a few calories a day of high fructose corn syrup. Now, everybody eats 200 to 300 calories a day of high fructose corn syrup. Now, high fructose corn syrup, which is in almost all junk foods, including sodas, triggers the body's mechanism to tell you that you're hungry. It turns off the body's mechanism to tell you that you're full. So you run around ravenously hungry, you're never full, you get fatter and fatter and fatter. And the reality is, I have an email that we send out. It's called the Great Obesity Cure Cover-Up. And we talk about high fructose corn syrup and how bad it is and how horrible it is for your system. And so people need to realize is that there's certain foods you just need to stay completely away from. And one of those is high fructose corn syrup. Now, what's interesting with this too, we have between 10 and 15 million children in the United States right now taking the drug Ritalin or Adderall. Now, let me share something with you about these drugs.
Please.
Now, friends, if your kids are taking these drugs, I'm not telling you to not give the kids the drugs, okay? Because these are very addictive drugs, and you need to talk to your doctor about getting them off them if that's what you choose to do. But here's the reality. Ritalin and Adderall are Schedule II controlled substances. They're in the same category with morphine, opium, Percodan, Demerol, and OxyContin. That's how strong they are. That's how strong these drugs are. These are not M&Ms you're giving these kids. And kids and adults, this is, in fact, Ritalin, right here's an interesting thing. This is an article I got from the USA Today. It says, Ritalin makers ties to the Advocates Probe, and it talks about how in the United States, Ritalin is one of the top 10 drugs slated for pharmaceutical theft. And what folks don't realize is that if a cocaine addict uses Ritalin, they can't tell whether they're using Ritalin or using cocaine. People grind it up, and they snort it up their noses, Pastor. This is a strong, strong amphetamine. And methylphenidate is what Ritalin is in its generic term. Methylamphetamine is what you buy on the street. They're almost identical. So now everybody's saying, well, I can't believe he's talking like this. Well, here's the thing I found. 88% of the children who were tested in one major study who've been diagnosed with ADD and ADHD when given a glucose tolerance test were found to be hypoglycemic. Over 90% of them reactive to red dyes and blue dyes. So here's what I tell folks. Before you put a child on a Schedule II drug, try a dietary change. Try behavioral management. Try everything you possibly can first. Because, friends, listen to me. If your son is on Ritalin or Adderall for an extended period of time, they can't even serve in the armed forces of the United States. They won't even take them. Now think about what I just said. Now what does the federal government know that they're not telling us? You can't even put your son in the military in the United States if they've been on Ritalin or Adderall for an extended period of time. Isn't that amazing? But yet they don't tell us that because they know this is like being on speed. It's like methamphetamine. It's a very, very strong drug, and I believe that we're way overdiagnosing it, the disease, the symptoms. In some classrooms, Pastor, there are more children taking Ritalin or Adderall than there are children who are not.
And they're doing it because?
Because they say they're hyper. Well, the main reason they're hyper, friends, now listen to me. We have a whole report in our Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program on ADD. And we tell you the specific nutrients these kids are deficient in. Very important you understand that. There are nutrients that are causing the hyperactivity. And when you give the children these nutrients, the hyperactivity goes away. Isn't that amazing? If you give the brain what it needs to start acting right. Wow. And so rather than giving them the nutrients the brain needs, they drug them into a stupor on a Schedule II drug. And that's what happens to them in the classroom. Now, I got a lot of people really mad at me now, and I said, and please forgive me, because I'm not trying to get you upset. Like I mentioned to you yesterday, I'll do anything I can for you, but I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, if you don't, I got to.
So nutrition is that important?
No, it's critical. I mean, why do we think we can live on Twinkies and Ding Dongs and cupcakes and be healthy? And why do we think we can feed it to our children? And that's number 5 on our list.
But I didn't realize what it causes too.
Oh no, it's been linked to heart disease, to diabetes, to cancer. I mean, the University of Kentucky did a study just a few years ago, and we talk about it in the Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy program. We have the reports in here on high blood pressure, depression, diabetes, cancer, ADD, prostate, impotency, infertility, and problems men. I mean, there's a product on the market right now that we developed a couple of years ago. It's phenomenal. That it's like a natural Viagra in men. It has no side effects to it. It basically burns body fat like crazy, burns cellulite like crazy. But the reality is, people start taking all these crazy drugs like Viagra and then going blind from it because of the nitric oxide and the antioxidants in the brain and all the other things it does to the optic nerves. And see, there are all kinds of natural things that you can do to feel great and look great every single day of your life, but you got to start making healthy choices.
But the thing is most people don't know what these nutritional things
are.
Because,
and that's why they perish for a lack of knowledge, Pastor. And that's why the hospitals, we have cancer. Remember,
I mean, you never hear on TV about what nutrients to take for this. They are always giving you medicine.
Well, every time you turn
about some medication.
Every time you turn, you're absolutely right, Pastor. Every time you turn on the evening news, the major advertisers on the evening news are all drug companies.
Exactly.
And then they'll say, if you take this product, you'll get rid of your arthritic condition. And then they say, but you may have sudden death, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, or you may die suddenly. And you're like, okay, I'd rather deal with the arthritis than deal with these side effects.
Listen, precious people, before we leave, I've got to tell you something and then tell you about his products. He is telling you the truth. Years ago, I had what is called atrial fib, where the heart misses beats and can go up to about 200 beats a minute. I went to a heart specialist. He said, I will put you on a medication called Lanoxin and one called Coumadin. And when I asked him what side effects they had, it was worse than what I was suffering with. Finally, I said, forget this. I did go on Lanoxin for a time, but I literally began to do what he's talking about. I began to take nutrients. I went to a doctor in Arizona, and my own doctor, Don Colbert, helped me in finding out what nutrients I lacked. It fixed my problem.
Yeah, Don Colbert, one of the finest men I know.
But now look,
I love Don.
You've got all this material that people need, and I want to offer it to our people because this is dynamic. First, maximum energy. In your book, you talk about the 10 foods never to eat.
That goes into detail in these top 10 foods. That's
and
correct.
the 10 foods you should eat in this book. Then you have these 8 CDs.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the Maximum Energy Health and Fitness Program.
What's in this again? One more time.
It goes into detail on how you can increase energy,
Tell
speed
the
up your
people here.
metabolism.
Talk to them.
What this program does, I'm 52 years old. I feel absolutely wonderful. I work out 6 days a week. And what this program does, it takes you through a systematic process on increasing lean muscle mass, burning body fat, basically reversing the aging process. It's phenomenal. And it teaches you how to maximize your energy and maximize your output every single day of the week. I mean, I haven't had any coffee.
And plus, you talk about staying heart disease and cancer free, which supplements really work, which we didn't talk about today. I wish you'd get into that tomorrow. 10 key secrets to looking and feeling 20 years younger.
That's right.
Stress-free living made simple. And then the 5 ways to burn body fat.
That's right. All of it's in there.
Breaking food addictions. Bypass the bypass.
All of it's in here.
I mean, that's all in there.
Well, and plus there's much more. There's trace mineral supplementation. We talk about natural programs as far as
that's incredible stuff in there.
And it's the thing that's good about my stuff is all. I was like this. I speak so fast.
You do.
That you're missing most of it anyhow. And so when you have
no, believe me, we're listening.
When you have it on CD,
it's our health.
When you have it on CD, you can rewind me and hear me twice.
And so this 8 hours book here about maximum age reversal.
Yes.
What's in this book?
This book basically does the same thing. We talk about soy in here, about the problems associated with soy. We talk about what you can do to stop heart disease, cancer, which supplements really work and don't work, 10 key secrets looking and feeling 20 years younger, stress-free living, hormone replacement therapy, the debacle that turned into, in addition, what you can do for hormone replacement therapy that actually works and works very well. And we talk about cutting-edge age reversal therapies.
Now, Sharon, you've got a book on train up your children in the way they should eat. Stop ear infections, allergies, asthma, obesity, all in this book.
We have an epidemic today in America with children obesity, and we've got to stop it. People, again, because of lack of knowledge, their children are obese and they're sick. We want to be able to help you have zero medical bills,
and
zero.
Listen, improve the health of your unborn child.
That's right, critical.
So you talk about even how to have a health
prenatal nutrition.
Right.
This is incredible. Nourish your infant and toddler. Wow.
And let me tell you something about Sharon. She won't tell you. Sharon's a black belt in karate.
I can't believe it.
She won the U.S. Open a couple of years ago in weapons competition, international weapons champion in karate. She's phenomenal. We've been married for 25 years.
It's amazing that God gave you all this in this book. Protect and enhance the all-important immune system of your children.
That's right.
Well, because children at the young ages, they start with all these ear infections, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through all this with
This is amazing. You guys have this big book on the top 10 foods not to eat and top 10 to eat. You've got this amazing book for children, how to keep them healthy even from when they're still unborn. All these CDs, 8 CDs, maximum age reversal. Precious people, listen, this alone, Dr. Ted sells for $129. Just this by itself. You can have the entire package, for $175. And if you call today, this is an investment into your future and life, I will send you, and you can have a choice of these DVDs on exercise.
There's 3 workouts in each one: beginning, intermediate, and advanced exercise.
And one for men, one for ladies.
And what's good about this is that all the women's exercises are done at home. I'm taking Sharon through 3 different workouts: beginning, intermediate, and advanced at home. In the men's exercise program, we have the beginning and intermediate men's exercise. My second undergraduate degree from Florida State University is in exercise physiology and psychology. And so what we do is I go to these exercise programs from an exercise physiology standpoint. I tell you exactly what does work and what does not work. Now the advanced men's program, guys, if you think you're in great shape, try the advanced men's program.
And listen, we cannot include the eat, drink, and be healthy in the package. It's just too much. But if you want it, ask the operator and they'll tell you how you can get this.
And plus, that has the reports in there on high blood pressure, depression, diabetes, cancer, and ADD, prostate infertility. Oh, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Now listen, tell your friends about tomorrow's program. Don't miss it. Because now you'll cover what tomorrow?
We're going to finish. We're going to try to finish the top. Today I wanted to finish the top 10 list. We're going to try to finish the top 10 list tomorrow. We'll also try to cover some of the key ways to burn and melt body fat. We want to talk about melting and burning cellulite. And also what I'll do is when you order the program, we'll give you the report that I wrote on cellulite.
So you're going to give them that too?
Yeah. So when they order the program, we're going to go and do that. Yeah.
This has been an amazing program, and the one yesterday. Don't miss the one tomorrow. Remember, God Almighty wants you healthy. Sure love you. Bye-bye.
You've got to start every single morning off with a high-quality protein product. If you don't do that, the cortisol continues to digest your muscle for fuel, and basically you continue to deteriorate as you age. Two primary factors that you have to remember in age determination, how long you're going to live, is lean muscle mass and basically muscle strength.
You are high in the mountains of southern Mexico. You are in Cerro del Aire. You are building a church for over 250 local villagers. You are fulfilling the Great Commission of Jesus by spreading the gospel to the uttermost parts of the earth. You are a Benny Hinn partner. Your gifts to Benny Hinn Ministries are supplying the materials for this 2-story church in Cerro del Aire. Local church members are supplying the manpower to carry those materials by hand and donkey up a 45-minute trail to this beautiful setting in the mountains. Each man in this fellowship has pledged to carry 50 buckets of gravel and 50 buckets of sand. But you are providing the gravel, sand, cement, rebar, and bricks. And if you are partnering with Benny Hinn, you are going around the world ministering Jesus' love to the multitudes. If you have not joined in this mission effort with Benny Hinn, why not start today? Your monthly gift not only helps to build churches like this one in Cerro del Aire, but also builds orphanages for forgotten children, feeds and clothes the hungry and naked, and shares the miracle of salvation with thousands worldwide. You may not physically be here in southern Mexico building a church, but as a partner with Benny Hinn Ministries, you are here making a difference in the lives of hurting people.